Annyeonghaseyo, all my beautiful people. How are you doing this evening? Well, I have a very different background because A, I'm not at work, and B, I am moving. So I am kind of on a pallet on the floor. So things are in between stages right now. But today is day 5 of the rush trial, and today is my kind of day because I do have a background in interviews and interrogations. I was certified in Wicklander-Zawalski interviews and interrogations. Most people use the Reed technique. I used Wicklander-Zawalski technique in my prior field of work, which was loss prevention. So I want to dig in a little deeper into this direct examination and cross-examination of the witness that was on the stand, the main witness, which was the lead investigator in the case. Sorry, that was my dog. So anyway, first of all, I want to say welcome to everyone who is watching this channel. I know a lot of people are recapping this trial and you could watch it anywhere. And I know there are a lot of real lawyers out there that are recapping this trial. But I appreciate everyone who tunes in to the alternate point of view, and welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you have returned and enjoyed this content. So today we had the lead investigator on the stand, and they continued playing the interrogation of Hanna Gutierrez Reed with her lawyer sitting next to her. They read her rights. Her lawyer not one time really intervened in the interrogation. For the most part, she rambled on, told her side of things, and didn't really, have a lot to say. It was well after the event, so she was not actually in the church when the incident happened, so she was kind of detached, I guess you could say, from the situation. But they did throw out different scenarios. So the difference between this interview and the very first interview was that when you do an interview, so here is where I started to see a lot of the defense attorney during his cross-examination. After they played the interrogation, the prosecutor would stop the video, ask questions, start the video, ask questions, basically like, is this what she said? What was she referring to as far as where the ammunition came from? A lot of the interview process part, Hanna seemed surprised at how much real ammunition was on the set, how much real ammunition was mixed in the boxes. So she also was still pretty disgruntled about how much she had to do props over armor. She also mentioned again how much she didn't really have any training and how much they didn't really do a whole lot of training on the set for her position, and how she didn't really get to spend a whole lot of time with many of the actors for the set. So it was a little bit of unprofessionalism, I have to say. And as I've stated before, I have been on numerous sets, and this set seemed to be very unprofessional, like super unprofessional, kind of like this video, as you can tell, is not my best. But we're working with what we got in the middle of this move. What I saw the defense attorney trying to do was talk about how the lead investigators were putting out different scenarios. Like, do you think that the disgruntled camera crew could have done it? Do you think they could have maybe put some live ammunition, kind of hinting toward different people doing this? And I will tell you that during an interview and an interrogation, these are basically the 5 steps in an interview process. So when you sit down to interview someone, it's kind of like doing a YouTube video, okay? Your first thing is your introduction, right? You introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Tracy Lee. This is the alternate point of view. Welcome to my channel. I appreciate you being here. And then you kind of go over and get to know each other a little bit, right? You know, obviously you love true crime. I love true crime too. That's why we're here together. So, you know, you get to know each other, you build a rapport, okay? You know, do you have kids? I have 2 kids. You'll probably hear me talking about my kids a lot. That's kind of what you know you do when you're doing these interviews with people is you're building that rapport with people. You're building a rapport. You're getting to know the person a little bit on a personal level. You're finding commonalities with that person, and you make them feel comfortable in the situation because it's a high stress situation, right? So you're trying to make that person feel comfortable. Then you kind of start to talk about the situation at hand, like what actually happened, what you're in there for. So what are we in here for? What are we talking about? So what we're here today about is we're here to talk about day 5 of the Rust trial with the armorer, right? So today, the main focus was on the lead investigator and how she handled the interview and interrogation of Hanna Gutierrez-Reed. And they're picking apart her interview and interrogation. And so, you know, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to watch the interview and interrogation, and we're going to ask questions. You know, why did you do it this way? Why did you ask this question? So that's basically how an interview goes. So when you're talking to Hanna, when the lead investigator is talking to Hanna, she's asking Hanna, were you the only one who put ammo in the guns on set? Were there any other people who had access to the ammo on the guns? Were there any other people who had access to the guns on the set? Were there any other people, you know, basically just trying to give Hanna a lifeline, basically. That's how these interviews and interrogations work. What we're trying to do is there any other possibility that it could be anyone but you that could have had access or done this or loaded the weapon or whatever it is without actually saying it? You know what I mean? So that's why they threw that lifeline out there of, do you think maybe the camera people who were disgruntled would be that disgruntled that they would put live ammo on the set? And even Hanna herself was like, oh gosh, no, I don't think they would do that. I wouldn't want to think anyone would do something like that. That'd be terrible, right? So again, it's basically what the job of an interview and interrogation is to do is to paint that person into a corner so that they literally have made it that they are the only one who had access. They are the only one. They are the armorer. She was the armorer on the set. So she was the only one. She was the one. She was in charge. So no one else had access to do this. So what is okay to do in an interview and interrogation is to not exactly necessarily lie, but yes, you could call it a little white lie. You are allowed to say, well, could it have been? Could you have possibly accidentally, maybe without meaning to, done this? Could you have not noticed? Could you possibly have not really checked the gun that day? Could you maybe skipped or got distracted? Or, you know, it doesn't make you a bad person. I'm telling you, if you watch any interview and interrogation, you will see where every time a detective or an investigator asks, you know, you're not a bad person. I don't think you're a bad person. Never in a million years would I think that you did this on purpose. I just think that possibly there was a mistake made. Possibly you got distracted. Possibly an accident. You know, let's explore how this accident could have happened. Tell me how you think this accident could have happened. And that's when you put the ball in their court. Okay? So that is how an interview and interrogation works. All right? So what the defense attorney was trying to do was trying to say that the detectives were basically trying to put words in Hanna's mouth. They were trying to say that they were trying to put it all off on Hanna, which is kind of true, but kind of not. They were giving her every out possible. They were also trying to say that because they read her rights while she was under distress, that they knew by reading her rights that she would be able to have her words used against her in a court of law. Well, reading someone their rights is protecting them. Okay, it's protecting the detectives. It's protecting because they're telling you, and they clearly ask you, you do realize we are reading you your rights. You do have the right to ask for an attorney. And whether you're under distress or not, if you say you understand that you have been read your rights and you have the right to ask for an attorney, which let me just tell you this as a piece of advice. If you are ever being questioned by the cops for whatever the reason, guilty or not, you always say, I want a lawyer. Get a lawyer. Answer 0 questions. 0. Because the entire point of an interview and interrogation is to get you to say something that you would probably not normally say under any other circumstances. It is a high stress situation. High stress, okay? High stress. I have had minimal evidence on people in the past. Minimal. But I have gotten admissions of way more than I had evidence of, because people were so happy to get it off their shoulders, off out of their mind, off of the guilt was just eating them alive. So I can tell you, if you are ever in that situation, you always ask for an attorney. Never, ever, ever waive your rights to an attorney. But it is their job. That is their job, is to give you different scenarios. So when they gave her the scenario of, do you think it could have been a disgruntled cameraman? No. Well, did anyone else have access to the prop truck? Well, I mean, everybody had access to the prop truck. I mean, it was not locked, but the guns were locked in the safe. And she's the armorer. She's the only one who had access to the gun. So there she painted herself in the corner, okay? So the defense attorney was trying to make it sound like that she was, the investigators were trying to make it seem as if they were trying to make Hanna look like she was the only one who possibly could have loaded the gun. They were also trying to make it look like David Hall held some responsibility, although David Hall admittingly said he didn't know anything about guns. They had that pickle girl on the stand. She also said she didn't know anything about guns. So they had a lot of inexperienced people on the set, period. So I do believe that Hanna will be held responsible for a lot, but I think that the producers who did the hiring of these people are going to be held more so responsible because they were trying to cut corners and save money. And I think that they should be held responsible, because when you're trying to save money on a set like that, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And it costs someone their life, and someone should pay for that. There was a lot of breaks today. There was a lot of arguing back and forth between the attorneys. There was a lot of snickering, a lot of unprofessionalism going on. And y'all, just by the way, Club Girl was not there today. So, but I could see that the defense attorney was trying to make it look like, and I hate when attorneys do this, they try to make it look like the investigators are doing a poor job or they did a bad job. Every investigator has their own job to do whenever there's an investigation going on. There may be a lead investigator, much like in my field where I was working, I always had a boss, but I did the investigating for the most part. He oversaw my investigating, but it was my job to gather the information and it was my job to do the interview. He would sit in on those interviews, but he didn't have all of the facts, even though he was over me. But it was my job to be ensure that I had everything I needed in order to conduct that interview. So I would say that it is part of the interview process, which is to let someone know up front. They don't have to talk to you. That is their choice to talk to you. You build that rapport with that person. You let them know, hello. You let them know that, that you're just having a conversation. And you ask them different questions, different scenarios, like, what if this happened? What would you do? What would you do? What do you expect? That's why you see in a lot of interviews when you say, what would you do to the person that did this crime? What do you think should happen to that person? And if they don't say that person should get, if it's murder and they don't say that person should get the death penalty or life in prison, then there's more to their involvement. So that is why there are techniques, there are ways to do an interview and an interrogation. A lot of the interviews and interrogations that are played on YouTube, they refer to the Reed technique. The Reed technique is similar to Wicklander-Zawalski, but I believe Wicklander-Zawalski is a little more, I want to say a little softer than Reed. Because it's more utilized, not like cops do it, but more for people like in loss prevention, where we have to take a different, more softer approach because we're not law enforcement. The Reed technique, you have your choice to go in hard, or you have your choice to do all the steps and take the time to build the rapport. In the Reed technique, there's usually sometimes they do the good cop, bad cop situation. But in the Wicklander-Zawalski technique, it's a long process, a very long conversation. As you can see, in a lot of these interviews, you'll see that go a long, long time. They don't take just an hour or so. They take a long time, because a lot of the time that when I would interview people, these would be people that I knew. I worked with these people. I would know them for years. And it would be the last person that I would ever think of that would steal from the company and do the things that they did. And it would be devastating for me to have to be the one to interview them. So I would just say with that, it's tough, but you still, even if you know the person, even if you've worked with the person for years and years, you still have to do the Wicklander-Zawalski technique, and you still have to build that rapport with them, because it's important, because you're doing it because, something has obviously changed in their life to cause them to make the decisions that they've made. So you have to figure out what it is, because clearly you didn't know the person as well as you thought you did. So the defense attorney did try to get this lead investigator on impeachment. He tried to get her on the search warrant situation for the prop truck. He tried to get her on entrapment. He tried to get her on a few things. But again, keep in mind, he was present for the interview. So I'm interested to see what will happen tomorrow. I'm kind of wondering how much responsibility Hanna is going to hold for this. I wonder, if you were on the jury, would you put more weight on Hanna or more weight on Alec Baldwin, because he was the producer, he held the purse strings? Or is Hanna more of a scapegoat because she lacked the experience, and because she wasn't in a union, and because they were trying to save money? I'm just curious. I'm just really curious as to what you guys' thoughts are on this. I'm a little on the fence. I really am. She's a young girl. I think there needs to be consequences and repercussions, but I also feel like, you know, again, her life is going to go on. This has not, I don't believe, stopped her. I don't believe this is going to stop her career in any way. Hollywood is very forgiving, and I mean, I don't think this is going to end her in any way. And it's not going to end Alec Baldwin at the end of the day. I think that no one's really going to pay the price for the life that was lost. And I would be interested to hear what other self-appointed alternate jurors have to say about this trial so far. And if you think that anything is going to come of this, and if it's going to be, if this is, any of this is even worth what's happening. So, and if you're learning anything, are you guys learning anything from this? Are you guys learning anything about movie sets? Are you learning anything about interviews and interrogations? Are you learning anything? Because it's funny that I know about both. So this is a very intriguing trial for me because I've been on movie sets and because I've been the interviewer in interviews and interrogations, and because I've also been on the stand in court. And I haven't been a juror, but I have had to defend my company in a loss prevention case several times, actually. I've been in court a lot. So I'm just interested to see what you guys think about this perspective, because I am not a lawyer. I'm not an expert. I also do know about firearms. So, you know, it's a different perspective for sure. And it's just my own personal opinion. But I wonder if Hanna is going to carry most of this, or if this is setting up for Alec Baldwin to get a lot more. I wonder if they're going to go easy on Hanna and harder on Alec Baldwin for cutting the corners that he cut to make this film. Because I think that he really, because he was the star of this film, he was the producer of this film, this was his baby. And I think that, you know, he was really he felt like this was gonna be something big for him. So I just wonder, you know? So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at half and half 1974. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at The Alternate Point of View. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook at Tracy Lee. And again, kamsahamnida. Thank you for watching this video, and tune in for the next video. And also listen to my podcast, Makchang, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and Google. 감사합니다.